So the problem states, find the least positive integer n such that no matter how 10 to the n is expressed as the product of two integers, at least one of them contains a 0. So it says no matter how it is expressed. So obviously, most of the time, if you express 10 to the n, say n equals 2, then it's 100. Most of the time, if you're going to factorize it, you're going to do something like 10 or 10, or you're going to do something like 2 and 50, and it's going to have a 0 in them. There's only one way to do it without a 0 in them, or it's 4 times 25. This way is special because each of the factors is 2 squared and 5 squared. They're both squares of these. And you can notice that 100 is actually obviously just 2 squared times 5 squared. So so because 100 is 2 squared, 5 squared, the only way to split it into factors that don't have a 0 in them is by doing it as 2 squared and 5 squared. Because when you do it as 2 squared, and if you do it with anything that's not 2 squared and 5 squared, there's going to be a 2 and a 5 in one of the factors. And when you have a 2 and a 5 multiplied together, you get 10, which when you multiply 10 to anything, it will have a trailing 0, and so you'll have 0. So the only way is for 10 to the n, you have to turn it into 2 to the n times 5 to the n. You just have to. So in order to have it not have a 0 in one of the factors. So we need to calculate the least positive n. So what works? So if n is 10, then this factor will be 1024. You should probably know that 1024 is a power of 2, specifically 2 to the power of 10. It's a 0. That's what comes to mind first, but is there anything smaller that would satisfy there being a 0 in one of these two terms? Because we're basically looking for the smallest possible n, where these two terms, at least one of them, contains like a 0. That's what the question asks. So we see that if n equals 10, then 2 to the n equals 1024, which has a 0. But is there anything better than n equals 10? So we can go out testing the powers of 5, because we can test that. We've already found the smallest power of 2 that works, so we should probably check the smallest power of 5 to see if that's any smaller. So aha, I think we found something. So for 5 to the 8th, we have the number 390,625, which does have a 0. So therefore, 5 to the 8th has a 0. And that means that if we found a case where n is smaller than 10. If n equals 8, then 10 to the 8th equals 5 to the 8th times 2 to the 8th. And this 5 to the 8th has a 0 in it. So we have a solution. And it's the lowest we can go because, well, obviously there's no powers of 5 smaller that'll work, and there's no powers of 2 smaller that'll work. So our answer is n equals 8. And because it's AIME, we're going to call it 008. Please like and subscribe. And also, to explain that where I said 008, in AIME, all the answers are expressed as 3 digits, so you add in those leading zeros.